What's up, party people? It's Keys Dan with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time. DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you can have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Let me entertain you. Are you not entertained? Wait, today on the program, I have Joseph Boyer. Who's Joseph Boyer? Well, if you don't know by now, you're going to find out in the next few minutes, so stick around. This week's shows, I have one public show, my faithful Friday night at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. Video dance party, karaoke jam. Conway, Arkansas. Yeah, you can have some fun there. They got a full bar, the kitchen's open, pool tables. They got a pool tournament on Friday nights. So if you want to try to make some money on a Friday night, I encourage you to check out the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. Check it out. And while you're waiting to play some pool or between games or having your drinky drinks or eating your good food, you could sing on stage right next to me. You be the star of the show. All I'm doing is pressing buttons. You tell me what you want to sing and you sing it. You're the star. Yeah, it's always a lot of fun at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. 8 p.m. until 12:30 in the AM. Good times. Friday night at the Rab. Hey, and this Saturday, I got a wedding. Weddings are back, baby. The only reason I mention it is because I'm so excited. Saturdays are made for weddings, private events. Sundays, man, you know, I try to keep those as lazy Sundays. But, you know, every once in a while, somebody's going to say, can you do my birthday party for me on a Sunday? Yes. All right. I'm there for you. I really do enjoy being at people's events when they're celebrating their best times with their family and their friends. And I get to be a small part of that. I appreciate that so much that you let me be there and play the music for you, push the buttons. And if you want to do some karaoke, I'll bring that too. You know, always a good time. All right, that's enough intro. You know who I am. Oh, yeah, I forgot. I also play video games. I've been playing a lot of Fortnite. Keys Dan Gaming. Hashtag Keys Dan Gaming. Find me on Twitch and find me on Facebook Gaming. All right, that is definitely enough of the intro. Let's get into it with Joseph Boyer. Now, I got Joseph Boyer on Skype, so if you're listening to the audio version of this, I encourage you to check out the video version on my YouTube channel. Just look up Keys Dan. You'll find it. It's got the Radio What logo sitting there. All right, party people, let's Skype Joseph Boyer now. There he is.
There we go. It's a process.
Hey, but you are smarter than the machine. Mr.
Well, even a blind squirrel can catch an acorn in a snowstorm from time to time.
I like that. I hope that's not the only words of wisdom that you give on this.
I'm going to be honest. I'm not sure that even is words of wisdom.
Seems like it.
It's something my father always said, and it was always seemed clever, but gun to my head, I don't even know what it means.
I wouldn't put a gun to your head, but it could be a mixed metaphor of sorts. What is it? Make like a tree and get out of here.
I always like it when people kind of take the obvious ones that everyone knows, like people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, but get them wrong. My personal favorite ever had to be people who live in glass houses sink ships. That's my personal favorite.
As my 15-year-old daughter would say, jokes, yo, jokes. Mr. Joseph Boyer in the house, man. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name's Dan.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Dan. Thank you. You're highly regarded by people that I highly regard.
Okay, all right. I maybe if you can name one person, that'll put a smile on my face.
Katrina Texidor, of course. I mean, there's no one else's opinion I'm going to view higher.
That seems like a person that you should hold in highest esteem as well.
Especially if I don't want to be in the doghouse.
You got that right. All right, man. We'll probably talk about that a little bit later. But first off, give the people an idea of who you are. We got Joseph Boyer here. If you were writing your Wikipedia page, and I haven't looked, I don't know if there's a Wikipedia page on you, but maybe we'll start one now. But if you were putting the blurb up, the top 2 paragraphs, the top 1 paragraph, who is a Joseph Boyer?
That's a tricky one. I guess because honestly, I've always kind of come across as a little ostentatious to people who meet me the first time, and I'm never really trying to do it. I think it's just I learned a long time ago that if I had an opinion, if I had an idea in my head, that it was always going to be better to get it out there and not occupy my mind with it, and just let it occupy other people's and see how they do with it. So it's not that I'm rubbing people the wrong way, although that does happen, and believe me, that can be fun too. It's just that people tend to not know what to expect from me, and frankly, neither do I. I'm the oldest of 4 children. My father has the same name as me. He's a cardiovascular thoracic robotic surgeon. How's that for a mouthful, right?
Yeah, no pressure, Joseph Jr. You don't have to follow in my footsteps if you don't want to.
There is pressure, but I took it in a different way, which is why I own a pressure cleaning business. So
I knew the puns were going to come.
Setup, by the way.
No, as I was thinking about this, as I was leading up into this podcast, into this conversation that we're having, the song that was in my head was I guess it's my second favorite song of all time, Under Pressure.
Oh, hey, Joe.
Under Pressure.
Oh, Under Pressure. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm a huge fan of Queen, of course. And you got to love anything that David Bowie contributes to. I mean, actually, I think that a lot of my favorite musicians, I became fans of them just because Bowie decided to kind of cross over and do work with them. The only reason I ever even learned about Nine Inch Nails a long time ago was because of that work that they did with Bowie and the respect that they gave him.
That was towards the end.
So these guys obviously are smart enough to know a genius when they see one, which might mean that they might be as well.
Well, that was towards the end. My goodness, Nine Inch Nails had been around for a long time before David Bowie.
They did that in 97.
I see.
And Nine Inch Nails started in 93. But before that, they were, I didn't make up the name, Thousand Homo DJs, which is one of the greatest names for a band of all time. The music was inexplicably loud and abrasive, not in a bad way. I mean, it's Reznor, so it was good stuff. It was that, and the artist, was it Jorgensen? Is an industrial guy. He's the kind of person who makes Reznor look like passive, and he's the kind of guy who wouldn't spit on your beard if it were on fire to put it out. An aggressive person, and the music kind of reflects this. But,
unapologetic is what they are. Unapologetic. Just put it all out there, whatever you're feeling.
Yeah.
And you have to have music like that. Sometimes you're having a bad day and you feel like thrashing, and you just, oh my goodness. And I know that they're not the hardest thrash singers or musicians of all time, but certainly if you're having a time. Yeah,
it is deep. It's not surface value stuff. It's got different meanings to different people at different times in their life. What it meant to me when I was a young depressed teenager like the rest of us, and what it means now that I'm an old depressed teenager, is not going to be. It's not. It has a completely different meaning. I find the older I'm getting, the more I can relate to him, and then he puts out new stuff that I'm just going to have to spend the next 20 years figuring out.
Man, I've been a DJ since '86, and I find through the years, whatever you were listening to in your formative years, whatever you liked when you were in high school, that's what you're going to like for the rest of your life.
13 to 19, yeah. Anything from 13 to 19 years old, you're going to listen to your whole life, which is why my dad was smart enough to make sure that I listened to his music during that time.
And that's what we do. We try to put it into our kids. I already mentioned that I have a 15-year-old, and I have a 28, 29. Oh my goodness, I'm a bad daddy because you never remember. You remember the birthdays, but you don't remember the year.
They add up. Over time, it gets harder to count that high.
Well, the best boyfriend/husband would be the man that remembers her birthday every year but forgets her age.
That I like that. And I'm about to use it later after we're done later.
Proverbs, man. We're going to have words of wisdom here with Joseph Boyer. But where did you grow up? Where was a young Joseph Boyer?
Well, you're not going to detect the accent. I can pull it out later, and if we start talking about anything northern, it'll undoubtedly come out. But I was raised in upstate New York, so Binghamton area, so New York. So while I was up there for a while, then we followed my father around as his practice moved from place to place. When we went out to Syracuse, we were out there until I was about 6, and that's when my father finished his medical school and became an MD. After that, then we moved to Chicago. And
let's stop it. Let's stop in upstate New York, because everybody thinks of New York as the city. When you're in upstate New York, it's more countrified, right?
Well, if you're from the city, upstate New York is Canada. So, of course, everything south of New York is Mexico. So, they don't exactly have a realistic view of the world. They can't get out of their own myopic view of everything.
Well, that's how snobby I was down in South Florida. I grew up, born in Miami, raised in Fort Lauderdale, and then lived in the Florida Keys until 2000. I guess born in '69 and lived in the Keys until 2008. But everything north, but everything north of West Palm Beach is South Georgia, South Alabama. Might as well be the South. Everything south of West Palm Beach is South Florida, is Florida, but everything north of that, is South Georgia.
I'm located in Central Florida, Orlando area, and I'm a stone's kick from Disney, one of the biggest entertainment places in the world, and still, this state is Miami. That's what it is. New York is New York. Miami is Florida. Until you start going to a place like California, which has like multiple gigantic cities, really most places are kind of defined by that one place.
The one city. New Orleans is Louisiana. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, it really is. Honestly, you go anywhere in Louisiana, you're wishing you were in New Orleans anyway. Sorry, Nolans.
I'm losing listeners right now, man, because all those people in Shreveport and Baton Rouge are going, ew, I don't like this at all. Click off.
It's the drinking, it's the alcohol, it's the partying.
And you're right.
You gotta love their open container laws. New Orleans and Savannah, Georgia have those great open container laws where if you're not drunk enough at the bar and you want to leave, they give you a red cup to go to the next bar. And of course, all the cars have to stop for the pedestrians no matter where they cross. Or I fall asleep in the middle of the road, you have to wait.
Drive around. If you can get around, drive around. It's true, man. So, all right, you're well traveled, man. You all right?
Gotta be.
You went to you're from upstate New York, but then you went to Chicago, which is a great town that I've never been to. It's one of the best cities in the world that I've never been to. My brother, he was in the Navy and he trained in Great Mistakes, Illinois. So spent a lot of time in Chicago, and told me a lot about it. But me personally, I haven't been north of the Mason-Dixon. I have to live vicariously through you, Joseph Boyer.
Well, I'll tell you, it is a lot like New York. It has all the big city stuff that you're going to expect anywhere, and the views are amazing. And, honestly, the food is fantastic. Maybe not Chicago deep dish pizza because I'm a New Yorker, but we're not going to get into that.
Let's get into that. Let's get into that.
It's good.
Because that's
Chicago
been a fight.
Deep dish pizza is good, but it's not pizza. It's a casserole.
The deep dish pizza. We have an old Chicago here in town. I find myself in Central Arkansas. We have an old Chicago, and I did try their deep dish pizza. And you're right.
Delicious, but it's a casserole.
It's tasty, but it doesn't eat like a pizza. You have to eat it with I ate it with a knife and fork. It was all sloppy. Yeah. Yeah,
I think it was Jon Stewart who said that, actually. He went on this huge rant about it in Chicago, like they disowned him. So hopefully they'll not disown you after this, Dan. I apologize if they do.
Hey, Jon Stewart, you mean the Green Arrow? That's the only one that counts right here.
No.
Especially in your relationship.
I'll never forget it.
No, especially in your relationship. It should be the only one that counts, the Green Arrow.
She wants me to be a huge fan of everything DC, but and you know what? I've read comics my whole life, so I had to be a nerd to be dating the owner of Cos Marketing Agency. So
the Geek Unique.
I had to prove my nerd chops right off the bat. I knew all the important stuff. I knew the basic Star Wars things that she needed to hear, and I knew all the characters in DC. But once she found out that I was really a Marvel fan and not a DC fan, it broke her heart.
But what's the difference, man? I grew up with comics too. I grew up a child of the 70s. Exactly. And I had X-Men comics. Age of Apocalypse was probably my favorite series because that's wonderful. The one that I grew up with. I guess it was late 70s, early 80s. I don't remember the timeline, but I read Age of Apocalypse, and I thought that was the best. But then I also had my Superman comic books, and then I had Captain America, and I went back and forth. Batman, Detective Comics, all those.
I read them all.
Yeah.
I had a kind of an analysis that some people agree with me, some people disagree with me, but I wear my opinions on my sleeve. I said that right off the bat. DC versus Marvel, they're both wonderful. And DC honestly has to get the credit for being first in so many ways. Not just the first comic book company, but they were the first ones to come up with a Superman. They were the first ones to come up with a non-powered vigilante who always wins, like a Batman, and all these different characters they brought in. Marvel had a lot of their own, but honestly, Marvel came up with their own versions of a lot of DC characters. So I'll give DC credit for the ingenuity. But what DC has always tried to do is they tell the story of what happens when you give a normal person superpowers. Or what if this person always had powers? What would this person with powers do with those powers? Which is compelling in a good story. Whereas Marvel is all about what is the emotional journey, what is the personal growth, how does it affect everything else that a person has these powers. And I think that's kind of the reason why the MCU has been doing so well, and all of the reasons why the DC universe is failing. These directors are not understanding the integral things that make these comic book universes what they are. DC is all about the powers and is all about how these characters get their powers. So the idea that they weren't doing origin story after origin story and building all this background is unconscionable.
Yeah, but
how many, they did that.
Yeah, how many Spider-Mans can I have, though? Tobey Maguire did fine, and he did, they did the origin story, and then Andrew did it as well, and now the young man, Tom Holland, is doing it as well.
It's that's because they keep changing studios. If Disney had it from the beginning, it would have been a very different deal, because I think that love Disney or hate Disney, they got a plan. I'll give them that. Oh, yeah. And they stick to it in all of the ways that other companies become impatient. Or I'm going to go with some market trend or something to that effect. You had these DC movies that were doing pretty good in the Snyder films that I didn't like them, to be honest, but it was different. They were action-packed. There was a lot to look at. They were visually appealing, and they were very dark. They were setting a tone. They were creating something decidedly different than the MC universe. For better or for worse, it was a strong decision. And then they start putting out Wonder Woman and Aquaman and all these lighthearted movies and Birds of Prey. And you take away from and that's honestly why all of these DC fans were pushing for the Snyder Cut to come out eventually. And don't get me wrong, it was a massive improvement, but it really showed the massive disconnect between the directors and the producers that are tackling this material. Whereas in the MCU, Disney is making all the money off it, but Marvel retained control.
Yeah, but okay, DC made it so easy for me to watch all of the Marvel movies front to back. In chronological order, I started with Captain America and then went to Captain Marvel, and they made it so easy. I still haven't seen a lot of the DC ones because you have to have so many different. I guess I have to have another streaming service if I want to watch. Is it DC? Do they have their own streaming service now?
If you want DC, you got to go HBO Max.
HBO Max. I've seen the Batman versus Superman, and I haven't seen the Wonder Woman's yet, and I haven't seen the Aquaman yet.
The first one. But I like you, Dan. Don't see the second one. No. I mean, no kidding. It is like objectively the worst film I've seen in a decade. Oh. I actually did not know that they could theoretically make a film with that premise that bad. Wow. It was inexplicable.
And I love Wonder Woman. I'm a Linda Carter fan.
It'll crush you then.
Oh my gosh! I grew up in the '70s with Linda Carter, and I watched her.
Yeah, that's what I like. I mean, I actually have all of those on VHS. Yes. I still have them. I don't even think I have a VHS player.
Grandpa, what's a VHS?
I can't wait to have those conversations with people later.
Oh, you see, man, I guess I've gone down rabbit holes where they give technology that was big in the 80s, big in the 70s, and they give it to kids that were born in the 2000s. And
I can't wait to tell my kids when I have them about Betamax.
Betamax and Laserdiscs. My best friend,
they were bigger than a record.
Yeah, my best friend John had a Laserdisc, and his dad was all proud of it. Oh my goodness, I have a movie on this thing the size of an album. But you can't touch it. You have to put it in with this cartridge and then pull it back.
I still have, actually 10 feet away from me, the original Star Wars trilogy on Laserdisc. And let me tell you, it weighs like 50 pounds because the discs are so heavy. These things are twice as heavy as records, as vinyls, of course. So it's 18 of these Laserdiscs in one box. You spend more time changing the Laserdisc than you do watching the movie. And then the quality was like a tenth of as good as a DVD.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not missing them, but I remember them.
Yeah, but you definitely know that Han Solo shot first.
Oh, of course he did.
Why?
Greedo was not ambitious enough.
No.
He was talking too much.
Why would they change that? That was such an integral part of who Han Solo was. He's a little bit of a bad boy. They had to make him that much more of a good guy.
I'm never going to understand it. I mean, I understand going back and you got new CGI and you don't have the wherewithal to make the prequels yet, and you're thinking about it. So maybe put in Jabba and do some stuff like that. Although honestly, rewatching them again, I still like the originals more.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, changing that, just why?
Why?
What possible reason?
Well,
Who is it really offending?
I did see the director's cut of the Terminator, and spoiler for people that haven't seen the director's cut, where they they pull the chip out of his head. I don't know if you've seen that. And they're like resetting the chip, and they could have just smashed it with a hammer. Terminator's over halfway through the movie, but they put the chip back in his head and on with the show.
Well, it's convenient plot device. It's the reason why Batman can beat Superman is because he's written that way.
Right. And
I mean, it's not like if Superman was angry, he couldn't just go to space and laser everyone.
Yeah. He's a god, plain and simple.
Yeah,
he's a god. To us mortal men. But man, all right. So I knew I was going to get.
We could talk comics forever. Continue with whatever you want.
Oh, I knew I was going to get geeky with you. I knew. But I do want to get your origin story. Chicago.
Oh, yes.
How old were you when you went to Chicago?
I got to Chicago when I was about 6. So I was there. I was there in first and second grade. And of course, like most young Catholics, and I'm not a Catholic anymore, but you don't have a choice with that when you're young.
Same. Yeah. Catholic school.
Yeah, a lot of Catholics don't celebrate their faith as much as they kind of mourn it. It's not something you choose. It's something that happens to you, and you either choose to stick with it or not.
George Carlin, one of my favorite comedians, and Sam Kinison.
There's an invisible man in the sky.
Oh yeah,
and the invisible man has 10 things he does not want you to do.
And there was a whole lot more. Every time I asked my priest, I went to Catholic school till 6th grade. And every time I asked my priest something that was way out of his realm, it's a mystery. Oh, God works in mysterious ways. I don't like the mystery of it. I need to know. I'm more analytical, more scientific. That's why I like
science so much.
Exactly.
Yeah, what was it Richard Dawkins said? He was the guy who wrote The God Delusion.
Hit me.
What he wrote is, if you build a plane based on the principles of science, it will fly. If you build a rocket based on the principles of science, it will lift off. Science works, bitches. And if you say, he's an 85-year-old British guy and very well to do.
Oh, it's nice to hear an old person kind of let loose verbally. Definitely.
Yeah, to all your listeners, if you guys have never had a chance to check his stuff out, just go to YouTube and watch videos of him looking at just reading out the hate mail he gets from religious people. That's it.
Well, I mean, the Earth is only 6,000 years old. Everybody knows that. Plain and simple. The God is just messing with us with these dinosaurs and bones that we find,
dinosaur fossils were put here to test our faith, Dan.
Absolutely, man, absolutely, and that's been explained to me so many
Bill
times.
Hicks said those people were put here to test my faith.
and I know that there's people that are going to go back and forth. I've been the gambit. I've been in a search for where we belong, religiously and scientifically, through my years. I started as a Catholic, and I went to Baptist church, dated a Jewish girl, Jehovah's Witness. That at least I read the Bible.
That's the whole gamut, man.
Yeah, I read the Bible back to front.
Now is a Mormon.
Oh, I studied with Mormons too, but and I had a book.
Studied with Mormons. I dated a Mormon. Don't do that.
No, I became a Jehovah's Witness. I was baptized Jehovah's Witness in 2002, and I quickly said, maybe not. Anytime it just wasn't the right fit. And I do like the fellowship of having people around, and I did like the fellowship of like-minded people. But I think I have a better time at a Comic-Con.
Well, I probably would too. Honestly, the only reason why, if I were religious, the reason I wouldn't be a Jehovah's Witness is very simple. I'm also a believer in science, and my father is a cardiovascular physician, like I mentioned. And one of the things Jehovah's Witnesses, of course, cannot do is get a blood transfusion. So, if you're a hemophiliac, you die from a paper cut.
I was a paramedic in the emergency room while I was studying with the Jehovah's Witnesses. So yeah,
that's got to be maddening.
Trying to melt those two together. Oh, right there in Miami at the Baptist Hospital in Kendall, Miami, Florida, way back when, back in I guess the late '90s, early 2000s. But man, yeah. And so, did you ever have the inkling to get into the medical field? I'm sure your dad was kind of gesturing, pushing you that way a little bit, maybe?
Actually, you would be very surprised.
Okay.
Now, this is what I can tell you about it. I think that's probably true of a lot of physicians, but by physicians, I mean traditional medical doctors. Surgeons are quite different. Having, pardon the expression, the power of God in your hands, the power to save a life in a very direct, obvious way like that, whereas most doctors they diagnose the problem, but ultimately all they can ever really do is then push it off to the surgeon. And for every 100 physicians, there's one surgeon. Understood. And for every 100 surgeons, there's one heart surgeon. So I was kind of learning firsthand and seeing firsthand from, you go through every other Christmas when you're young, he gets called out in the middle of the night or while we're opening presents, because some person had an aortic dissection and they need a full radial sternotomy, and he's going to be gone for 8 hours while we're all opening the presents he bought us. That's humbling.
But a child who doesn't understand might have malice.
I him. He actually took me to see surgeries when I was very young, and it was almost magic. Because he's very good at what he does, so he does it so fast that it's kind of scary if you're not ready for it. Like a surgery that takes 3 hours, he takes care of in 45 minutes, and which is he's rushing it, but no, actually he's not. The longer you're open, the worse you are. So the faster you do it, the better. It's just like you don't want to leave your food out for too long either. Same concept.
Well, that's the kind of surgeon you want on your side. Somebody who's done it so
Absolutely.
often that it becomes second nature. Reflex action.
Yeah. So from an early age, I was showing a big interest in it. Because when you're very young, you notice everyone else uses words like Mr. and Ma'am, but everyone's calling him Doctor.
There was something special there, yeah.
You're 5 years old, and that just clicks. And so I say, okay, so being a doctor is a big deal. This is something that's worth being. But over the years, you start picking up notes and always being stressed out. He looks at 70 hours as vacation. A 70-hour work week is vacation. Yeah. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around this.
Yeah, when I was in the emergency room, it felt like I just wanted to be there all the time, helping people. And it became such a big part of me that I did lose the rest of my life. And that's it. It's so hard to find balance. Yes. And it's not that it's not rewarding. Really, when you get down to it, can there really be more rewarding work than saving lives? I don't think there is. Maybe education is a distant second, but firefighters, doctors, and police officers, those are the most noble professions we have for a reason. Yeah. At least when it all goes well, that is. Well, no, I did the firefighting for 10 years from 89 to 99 down in the Florida Keys.
Are there any jobs you have not done, sir?
I have a thirst for knowledge, and I get bored doing one thing over and over. If I was an assembly line person, putting bottle caps on a bottle, I'm sure that's a great job for some people, but bam, bam.
There are
bam,
some people who love
bam.
that. They love the repetitive nature, the mundane elements. They can just zone out on it. I have to have constant changes to everything.
Input, yeah. And well, I mean, now I know where your work ethic came from. At least Dad was definitely giving you a work ethic. You had your mom and then other siblings. Tell me what you learned from Mama.
Yeah, I mean, my dad was joking when he said this, but I'll never forget being 7 years old. And he said, and I said, I was like asking for something to do. And I said I was bored. You don't ever say you're bored to my father. He'll find something for you. So what he said is, okay, Joe, I want you to go outside and I want you to do something, but I want to make sure it's something that you hate. I said, why? Why would you want me to do that? And I'm 7, and I asked him this question. He said, because being miserable builds character. And he was kidding, but he was also dead serious. It's one of those, like truisms that's like, it sounds like it should be wrong, but it's kind of true. Let's be real. The bad things that happen to us are what make us strong. The good things that happen to us make us complacent.
Yeah, but Dad, I'm this many. I should be watching cartoons. No.
Oh God. No,
what kind of chores was he putting you out on?
Oh, he had me mowing the lawn before I was even in elementary school. I helped him build a tool shed shack when we were in Pennsylvania. That was, from the age of 9 to 11, I was in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Allentown, Pennsylvania. The only thing other than that song about Billy Joel, there's really nothing else. That's it.
So why are you moving around so much?
Physician.
Okay.
Other than living with a military family, physicians, especially when they're younger, tend to move to be the most mobile because you got to be in one school for college, another school for medical school, then another place for residency, that was Loyola Hospital in Chicago, and that's why we were there in Chicago. Then his first practice was in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and it was, other than that song about Billy Joel, there's really nothing much to it. I mean, it's close to Philadelphia. That's pretty much all it's got going for it.
Gotcha.
So we were there for a while. So
yeah, I mean, and you're catching all these northern towns. What do you remember most about Well, I guess you don't remember much of upstate New York unless you have some family up there still.
We do, quite a lot. We're actually the only ones that moved down to Florida. The reason we went to Florida is my father always tells it like this. John Dillinger was once asked why he robs banks, and he said, well, that's where they keep the money. So the reason he's a physician in Florida is because that's where old people go to die.
Yeah. The big,
for lack of a better term.
A New Yorker's favorite wine. I want to go to Florida.
I love it.
Oh, that's one of my favorites, man.
It's so true, though. Central Florida is 40% displaced New Yorkers.
Yeah, I lived in Winter Park from, I guess it was 94, 95. I lived there for a little bit, and I worked at I worked at a Bally's. I worked on 101 JRR for a little bit, and then I had
they're still around.
Yeah. There's jam on it.
They're not as good without you, though, right?
Oh, and then I guess I was on Church Street at a club called The Edge. Was one, I don't know. It was like a little warehouse there. But anyway, DJing there, but holding down the 3 jobs. But I had a good time living in Central Florida. It was hot in the summertime and cold in the wintertime. Do you still find that?
What's the humidity? I mean, I never get cold. I mean, the way I view heat and cold is a little different than most people. If I get a sunburn, and you can look at my face, I'm pretty sunburned right now.
It's a nice
face.
Because
we're in Florida, so if you get a sunburn, it's too hot. If you get frostbite, it's too cold. So along that logic, I've never been too cold before. I'm a New Yorker. I miss it. So, I'm always going to miss that. I have memories of the snow being above my head. So I told people it's 6 feet tall, but back then I wasn't 6 feet tall. So it's probably 3 feet of snow. But
man, we got a foot of snow here in Central Arkansas, and people flipped out, lost their minds. We had four snow trucks, snow plows, and they were working, nonstop or as they, what do they, where is it they say non-stop? Is that
non-stop? I got to think about that.
Is that Boston? Non-stop.
Non-stop. It's closer to Baltimore.
Baltimore. Okay. Well, they were working nonstop.
Closer to Baltimore. But when I think Baltimore accents, I always think motor oil. Motor oil. That's what I always think.
I love it. I love the regions, man. And you've picked up on all these accents. But when you talk about the places that you've been, you take on the accents that you're talking about.
You've got to. I mean, to a certain extent, when you're bringing up memories, I mean, just like, like how if you smell something, that'll bring up a memory. Well, memories are also going to bring up habits, and and accents are not something we're born with. They're habits we get from talking to other people. So if I'm talking about pizza, sooner or later it's going to start coming out like that every time, and I can't help it. I don't even know I'm doing it most of the time. You know what you call a New Yorker with their hands tied behind their back, right?
No.
Speech impediment.
You got it right. As I'm half Cuban, and I know we talk with our hands a lot.
Always talk with the hands. Got to.
I try not to. I've tried to drill that out of myself, because every time I move, my microphone might get a little feedback on it. So I'm trying to.
I can't help it. I'll talk with my hands when I'm texting, and I don't mean to text. I mean, like, hand gestures. Like, well, that's not going to make it through. They don't know I'm doing that.
Nope.
So
anybody
really,
listening to the audio version, anybody listening to the audio version of this isn't going to get half of what you're talking about. You've talked about your face. You've talked about things, and I do encourage people to check out the video version.
Yeah, because honestly, they're only going to see half of my eccentricities. That's because of the name Joe. I have a running theory my entire life that because of the name Joe, which, of course, you say Joe, people say average Joe. I hate that expression. Now, I've heard that expression my whole life, and it always bothered me. And I think it's the reason why every Joe I meet is a little crazy, a little eccentric, a little out there. Maybe we have personality issues. I don't know, something to just make us a little bit ostentatious. Yeah. But anything to not be seen as average. I'd rather be seen as below average than average, because that's unrecognizable.
Well, since you were a little kid, is it always Joe or Joseph? Is there a difference between the two? That's right.
My mom calls me Joey, and that's because there's no making her stop.
Yeah.
I love the woman to death, so I'm not going to stop her. It seems to make her happy, but even Kat doesn't get away with that.
Well, most of my adult life, it's gone back to Daniel, but my mom will call me Danny, and she's probably the only one that does that. And there's a few that'll call me Dan. And Keys Dan just came from the Florida Keys, and that moniker is just going to stick with me, because I have a website that has millions of pages on it with Keys Dan on it, and I'm not changing it now. But Joe, that's what's been settled with you. Do you like the Joe? Do you like the Joseph?
Joseph is a little too biblical for me. I mean, it's a little bit old school. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love my name. My family has always. I mean, I'm one of, I think, like 35 or 36 Joes in the long range of my family's history. I mean, my dad is Junior, and I'm not. I'm a different Joe with a different set of middle names. And just the point is that there's been an awful lot of Joes in my family, so I got no problem being Joe or Joseph. But I guess Joe's quicker.
Yeah. Wasn't that in Goodfellas? That everybody had the same name. It was what was the two names? It was either a Joe or a Mikey or something.
Well, I know that in Big Fat Greek Wedding, every guy was named Nick, and most of the girls were Nikki.
Yes.
That was a great movie, actually. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I'm gonna have to rewatch it. It holds up pretty well.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I still, whenever I hurt myself, I look for the Windex and I go, no, man, that's not going to work. It's in the back of my head. What can cure this?
Yeah, I'm actually remembering that now. I forgot that's where that reference came from.
That is a big
Windex
subplot.
on absolutely everything.
Yeah. Broken arm? Put the Windex on it. No, don't do it. Don't follow that medical advice from me. Please, not Windex.
I mean, it'll get it clean, but that's about it.
Maybe so, but yeah, I do recommend.
You'll have streak-free hands.
Oh man, we have fun. All right, all right. We're going through still the origin story of Joseph Boyer here. I know.
We might get it done. Maybe.
I don't know. At some point,
I might die before I get to the end of my origin story. I actually, I kind of wish that my first word that I ever spoke was quote.
Quote?
So that right before I die, I could say unquote.
Yes. Same reason that I named my iPhone Titanic, and then I plugged it in. The Titanic is sinking. That was too.
It works. I like it. I like it.
It did, man. All right. Hilarious. And I can tell why Katrina likes you, man. You're a good dude, and I appreciate that. So Keys Dan
and
approved.
Patience.
Oh my goodness.
I think it's much more to do with her infinite patience than that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I keep things interesting. I'm aware of that.
Well, I've noticed over the years that the generosity of women never ceases to amaze me. You know, that why do they put up with us, man? I wouldn't put up with us.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Absolutely not.
I know how men are. That's why I don't date them. No. You know, I've known my whole life. There's one thing on your mind. Food, of course, is what I'm thinking.
Oh, yeah.
No, but all right. So you've made it through.
Oh, okay.
You were in Chicago, Pennsylvania.
Chicago. That's why I was mentioning the Catholic school thing. Like I was Catholic, so they put me in Catholic school for a couple of years there, and that was basically where I was able to eventually talk them out of ever making me go again. I went to one of those really traditional Catholic schools where all the teachers were nuns.
Okay.
It was it had a real old school Catholic name, like Our Lady of Perpetual Sadness or something like that.
George Carlin.
Very, very Catholic.
Yeah.
But let's just say I had a rough time with the Catholic school because the nuns there, they would scream at me, they would slap my hands with a ruler, they would push me, anything.
What year was this?
Anything to defend themselves.
What year was this?
No, you didn't get it.
No. What year was this?
I'm kidding, of course.
I got a rap on the fingers with a ruler. I only had one nun. She was the principal. And
when you're rewatching that podcast, you'll see what I said the second.
No, I didn't. I missed something.
Oh, okay. What I was saying is that these nuns would they wrap my fingers with a ruler. They would scream at me. They'd pull my hair. They'd call me names. Anything to defend themselves.
Now I get it.
That's what I was getting at.
And the joke got lost because I stepped on you. I got to stop doing that.
No worries about that. I'm persistent enough to tell the joke so many times. I never know when. The whole too much is never enough. It's kind of a motto of mine.
Hey, David Letterman did it for so long. He kept punchline. The punchline didn't work the first time. Throughout the whole show, he's going to say it. Ping pong balls. The whole show. Ping pong balls.
Until eventually the fact that he's hammering it with you becomes the joke.
You've been beat into submission. Yes. So,
absolutely. Right. I 100% agree. All right. So back to the origins. Okay. So I went to Pennsylvania. We were in Allentown, Pennsylvania for about 2.5 years. There's honestly not a lot to say there. I was from 3rd grade to 5th grade. My father finally got the big opportunity that he was looking for, and we moved down to Florida, in Central Florida. And so from 5th grade on, I was basically in Central Florida or attending colleges, and essentially it kind of became home from that point on. At least until I went to college.
So what were your interests when you were in high school, middle school, high school? What were your extracurriculars?
Well, same as anyone. I mean, girls.
That's all we really want is girls.
I am a traditional nerd, so I was very interested in girls, mostly because I knew I wasn't going to get any of them. Definitely liked video games like anyone. My brother liked it even more, and so he ended up becoming a video game programmer with Rockstar. He works on the Grand Theft Auto games, actually.
Very cool.
It's very. He honestly, I used to think I was good at math. The stuff he's forgotten more than I know. It's scary, but video games, of course, games of any kind. I was actually nationally ranked in that card game Magic the Gathering back in the day.
What?
I was nationally ranked in it. I actually won something like $30,000 worth of scholarship money.
And did you put it to good use?
Oh yeah, I mean, actually, nowadays, the game's still going strong. Apparently, they air competitions on ESPN too.
No, I'm saying, did you put
$1 million? I should have stayed with it.
Did you put your scholarship money to good use? What did you end up studying in school?
Oh, I know, terrible use. I used it on psychology.
Same.
I could have done it. The only thing worse, I could have gone with a basket weaving course.
That was my first major. I thought I was going to be some kind of psychologist, psychiatrist. No.
See, and you asked me earlier about why I didn't follow in my father's footsteps. I thought I was being clever, and I was going to be a doctor, but not have to cut anyone open.
Right.
In fact, not even have to give them medication. I was just going to talk to them, and I didn't realize that's the hardest part.
Yeah. You learn just enough to screw you up for the rest of your life.
My dad's got it right.
Yeah.
He doesn't usually have to talk to his patients. They're usually unconscious or at death's door. He just comes in and saves the day and gives high fives on the way out. He figured it out, and I made the mistake of thinking I could talk my way into it or out of it.
Well, I guess I could have been a Quincy, I suppose.
Well, you're a good talker. You probably would have been very good at it as well. But I mean, it sounds like you've been probably very good at quite a lot of things at this point.
Jack of all trades. I've heard that one all throughout my life. But there's always music all the way through it. The DJ thing has been the through line, and that's been the most fun.
Gun to your head, Dan. What's your favorite? What's
DJ.
Your favorite three bands?
My favorite, Queen, David Bowie, Adam Ant.
Awesome.
Yeah. I used to have all the albums, 13 Queen albums, and 4 or 5 David Bowie, and another 2 or 3 Adam Ant. Just playing records, and I just overplayed them over and over and over.
I actually got to see Queen with Adam Lambert in Denver back in 2017 at the Pepsi Center, and they rocked.
Yes. I've seen the videos, man. I watched the documentary.
Awesome.
I think it was on Netflix or Hulu, one of them. And Queen plus Adam Lambert is super.
What I really liked is that Adam Lambert acknowledges the entire time that he is not Freddie Mercury, and he gives Freddie Mercury credit the entire time. It's like, I know I'm not Freddie Mercury. Freddie Mercury is God, but thank you for giving me a chance tonight. And that really it was humble, and it went over really well.
When you saw the show, they have the screen up with Freddie Mercury from time to time?
We got some really good tickets. My dad was visiting, and we had the extended family, like 15 of us all in the front row. It was awesome. Absolutely awesome. And they completely rocked it. Mays is guitaring. He's still got it just like in the beginning. I mean, they're unbelievable.
Absolutely, man. All right.
They're not my top 3. They're in my top 10.
What's your top 3?
My top 3 is the Who, Led Zeppelin, and Pink Floyd.
Guitar driven. Now, my best friend in the whole world, John Canada.
Well, actually,
Floyd.
Moon is arguably the greatest drummer of all time.
Keith Moon.
So Keith Moon. I personally think that if he had not had his untimely demise, that he would have gone down as the best one eventually. I mean, it's either him or Neil Peart when you get down to it.
Oh, Neil Peart, man, gone too soon, man. I don't care how long. He lived a good life for sure, banging those drums. But gone too soon. But yeah, you got the Who. These are iconic bands that have stood the test of time. Years and years and years.
And no one covers them. That's the thing. No one covers them because they can't.
They can't. I guess the Rolling Stones are probably the longest living band, or longest longevity. What other band do you know besides the Rolling Stones that have had that kind of a long life? On a
separate note, how does Mick Jagger not have a neck injury from all this stuff?
How do I not have it from going to all the concerts doing this? Oh, my goodness. The next day, why does my neck hurt so bad? Oh, my God.
See, that's the thing. We actually do pay for it. I think that I have to wonder what kind of doctors they've got that they can do the things they do. I mean, like, how the hell is Keith Richards alive? How do these people survive? I don't understand it.
Keith Richards, man, better living through chemistry. But now he's a grandpa, and he's writing children's books. You grow, but through the years you develop taste, and then you change your ideas of who you are, and you become another person. You metamorphosize. How do you find that you've changed? All right, from 15-year-old Joseph Boyer to, I don't know how old you are now. What do you think the biggest change has been through those years?
That's a great question. Unprepared, so I'm going to wing it. Well, that's kind of how it usually goes, right? I'd say probably the biggest change that I found is that I don't jump to conclusions the way I used to. when I was, I'm not the smartest man alive, but I'm a bright guy. I've always been pretty analytical, and I find that if I put a couple hours to almost any topic, I can research it enough to have a conversation with almost anyone. I'm making my business to know just a little bit about everyone, or rather about everything. But I did find that when I was younger, I would jump to conclusions much quicker. Nowadays, I've got a much more patience in terms of coming to conclusions on things. I'm much more of I don't mean a political centrist, but I guess you'd just say just a centrist period. I try to find a middle ground between all things, and I stopped assuming a long time ago that I had any answers. But along the same lines, I never assumed that anyone else did.
That's very even-handed, man. What I find that as I've been growing up, I've been more even-handed, looking at people's views from one side to another.
Yeah, you just said what I just said, but in 5 seconds. I should have used those words, even-handed.
No, and that's fantastic.
That's what it is, though. You're absolutely right. I mean, I think a large degree of it is patience, and any person as they get older, if they have any ability to self-reflect, will develop a certain degree of patience. Yeah. But ultimately, what I find that people don't actually change that much. A person can change their life all the time.
Yeah. You
can quit your job, you can hire a new job, you can cheat on your wife, you can have a kid, you can do all kinds of things to change your life any day. Anyone can do it, and it's easy. And people come up with excuses for not changing their life and turning it around or doing things. But that's all it is excuses. Changing your life is easy. Changing who you are at your core, who you as a person are, is quite possibly the most difficult challenge a human can face. So if I had to be honest with myself, I'm not sure how much I have personally changed. I say I've become more comfortable in my own skin, as one is wont to when they have no choice.
Yeah, well, Joseph, I think that moving to a new location gives you a better advantage. You can't really change who you are if people have been growing up with you. Oh, we know who you are. You're that kid who wet his pants until he was 12 or whatever. You're that kid. Yeah. Yeah, perfect. The man's
Not
quick.
True, just having fun.
Nah, truth. And look it up. But stuff like that. If you, like, I moved from the Keys to Central Arkansas at 40 and started my whole life over. So I did get the opportunity to reinvent myself a little bit. And not a lot of people know who I really am. And that's what this podcast does, is sometimes it leaks out a little bit at a time while I'm talking to somebody interesting, such as yourself, Joseph Boyer.
You flatter. I have to warn you, I'm way too susceptible to flattery. It's not exactly healthy to the extent that it is for me.
Well, I keep dishing it out.
So it says something nice. Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just let it. It's like sun rays just tanning me with warmth.
Well, I noticed the glow. If you're watching the video, there's been a glow behind you, and I think part of that is coming from you.
Okay, yeah. That's my bad.
No, not even a little bit. No, but
a man needs to worry about his lighting a little bit. See, that's even worse. See, that's on me. That's on me.
Well,
it's not on you. It's on me.
You don't do this. Yeah, you don't do this every day. I got a fancy ring light sitting here in front of me, to kind of light me up a little bit. But all right.
Give me a couple hours. I'll see what I can do. I'll try to pick it up.
All right.
It's going to take me a while with the lingo.
Well, we'll start this podcast real soon.
I might have difficulty thinking what to talk about.
No, I think we've got the preliminaries done. We'll start the podcast pretty soon. But
fantastic. Have your people call my people.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. I noticed that you took a puff off of your electronic cigarette. Tell me about that. And when did that start? And was it cigarettes before that?
Oh, of course it was. I'm not sure how good the microphone is on our connection, but you don't get a gargoyle voice like mine unless you have spent years abusing it. And I think I'm wiser than I was before, because when I was younger, I certainly wasn't smart enough to know that cigarettes are going to do what they're going to do. And no, it's not going to do it to me. It's going to do it to everyone else. I'm different. I'm an athlete. I can handle it.
Well, with a dad, with a
used
dad
to be
who's a surgeon, your dad's a surgeon, a doctor. I know if you watch those movies in the 40s and 50s,
that's exactly why I did it.
The doctors are saying, you need a cigarette, Bill. You need to calm down a little bit, Bill.
Even
Thank
like
you,
the
doctor.
40s, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, doctor.
Or it says, I see your wife is having some anxiety problems during her pregnancy. Here's some methamphetamine. That'll sort her right out.
That'll calm her down. Give her a
That's
Valium.
what they did. Or here's some thalidomide because she has anxiety. This will solve the problem.
Okay, you do have some of the lingity from the doctor side. All right. So, all right, we learned about
it's merely a superfluous, fortuitous confluence of events, nothing more.
Perfection. I like all the $5 words. But you've already mentioned one of your siblings, very smart in math, and I like this to be a learning podcast, and people go or some kids say, "Oh, I want to be a video game expert, or I want to design video games." What you're letting people know, you got to be good in math. You got to stay in school if you want to do that.
There's 4 things. Okay, 4 things you need. You need to go to a very good school that is not a normal college. It has to be specifically for video game programming. So a Full Sail, a DigiPen. In John's case, he went to both. And
overachiever much?
Oh, actually, that's if you want the top programming jobs in his industry with the kind of competition there is. Because put in perspective, the company he's with is Rockstar. They're the best. They're the rock stars of the industry. They produce the biggest, best games, right? We all love them. And some of these games are producing 5 times as much money as some of the biggest movies. These Grand Theft Auto 5 made what, $5.5 billion? That's staggering.
Yeah.
So that game had over 7,000 artists and voice actors and programmers working on it, but only 3 engine programmers. And that's what my brother is, one of the 3 that does that.
One of the 3. That's out of millions and millions of people in this country, billions on the planet. Yeah. He's one of the 3.
So he's creating math and what they do with engine building, everything that they build there, those become the equations that get used in every game in the future. So when they create something, they're not just creating what you're about to see, they're creating the next decade, and you don't even notice it. All the people coming up and learning in college, they're learning equations that people like John are writing.
We're all standing on the shoulders of giants, man. It all started, with the computers way back when.
All right. Very, very different from the punch card days.
Oh my goodness! Could you imagine those little punch cards?
I remember I like my 5.5-inch floppy.
I had the 5.5-inch floppy. I might still have it.
Sorry, one bad joke for while I'm here.
I might still have it. It's another story though.
All right. So that's the first thing. You have to go to a good school. You got to go to DigiPen. You got to go to a Full Sail, some video game centric school. Second, you have to completely and 100% dedicate yourself to it. And this is the issue where people, it is very much like being in medical school. People who get in these programs cannot have any kind of a social life. Math skills, the third thing. And by math skills, that means you are taking calculus in 9th grade. If you're not taking analytical and theoretical math before you're out of high school, you're probably not going to be a primary programmer. They have skills that are just better. I can't do anything my brother does mathematically. And then the final thing is you have to grow your hair very long and your beard and stop using soap. Basically, you have to look like Jesus.
Well, yeah, and I see the secondary things you're talking about. You're not going to be the primary programmer. You're going to be the guy that's at the desk over the weekend on these menial tasks, solving these little problems. Hey, I need this done by Monday morning.
Essentially.
What's that?
It's essentially just data mining. Like my brother will write a program at home in his garage without having to go into work. He'll spend 5 minutes doing it, and just because it occurred to him. And then that means that back at Rockstar, 300 programmers are now going to spend the 2 months implementing this equation that none of them can understand.
I'm so scared to get into Grand Theft Auto. I play a lot of Fortnite, and I had to limit my time on Fortnite because it's so addictive. These games are made for you to just play and buy content and buy in-app purchases Oh my gosh! So I had
Now,
to.
Red Dead Redemption 2, that was the big one that my brother spent most of his time on. Now, my brother should probably be in the CIA instead of being a video game programmer because he's great at keeping secrets.
Uh-huh.
For 7 years, he didn't tell his wife or me or my parents what he was working on.
Wow.
So I was going to say I should probably get him to come on here, but he'd talk about anything but video games because he'd say, no, I have a confidentiality agreement and all that stuff. So all I can do is kind of spitball and give you as much as I can from the periphery.
Well, cool. I mean, hey, it's good that you have a brother that has doing well. You can brag on him.
He is doing quite well.
So, I mean, pray tell. I mean, now that we're almost an hour into it, let's give shout outs to the other people.
Wow.
Shout outs to the other people that have helped you along the way. Your other siblings, your mom.
Got a shout out to family, of course. I mean, my mother and father, they're my rocks. My mother is literally the most organized human being I've ever seen. You would call it obsessive compulsive if it wasn't so effective and useful to everyone around her. Father, of course, is he's always been my role model. I have a younger brother and sister as well. My sister has a couple beautiful kids. Hopefully, they're going to see this later. So that's Maddie and Sam. Sam is my godson, and then my younger brother Jason, who is. He's the family's pride and joy, or rather, he's the one we live vicariously through because he's probably never going to get married and he's living the good life.
Hey, I'm kidding you. That's not always good. That's not always good.
I'm kidding. But no, he's actually an ex-athlete himself, very, very talented pitcher, and he's a salesman, and he's a very charismatic guy. Younger, better-looking version of me without a terrible voice.
I like that. I like that a lot, man. It's good to have a family that's strong, that sticks together. I think it was Gene Hackman in one movie, it's Tombstone maybe, where he said, nothing's as strong as family.
No.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate in family. It's not just that I come from a family that has had fortune themselves. I mean, my father, he didn't have anything handed to him. He earned it.
Right.
But it certainly made life easier for us once we got to a certain point. Once I was 10 or 11, he started making some money, and life actually became a lot more fun in that regard.
Well, that's one less worry. I think Forrest Gump said it best when he got the Apple his stock, and he said, "Oh, we don't have to worry about money. Yeah, that's one less worry. That's good. That's
one
nice
less thing to worry about."
Yeah, and now you can live your life, without having to do that grind, that 9 to 5. But you went a different way. I mean, you definitely have that work ethic. It's solid. Tell me about what's going on in your life. What job did you land on? Well,
the funny thing is this. I went from one of the more interesting careers that's currently going on in America today to what seems like one of the most boring ones, but actually has really been kind of fun for me and is really turning into a great opportunity. So my previous profession I was in, I went out to Colorado for the industry that everyone knows Colorado for.
It could be leafy. It could be green. And it could be celebrated at 420.
It is very possible, yes. Or at 710, depending on the way it's extracted.
I have no idea what you're talking about. No, really. What's the 710 part? And what's the 420? What does that mean?
Oh, 420 was a group of students in California, Southern California, San Bernardino specifically. And they would get out of school at 4:15. 420 was code for smoke behind the gym. That's it. That's all it ever was.
Simple.
That's it.
Tell me about the 710.
710 710 was, it's meant to be for extracts and waxes and things like that. Where does the name actually come from? It doesn't actually make any sense. They just wanted something. It's like basically you have all these companies that are making pens and wax and shatters and edibles, everything other than the flower that people traditionally would be smoking. So they were trying to find their own thing, and they wanted to capitalize on this whole 420 movement, but come up with their own. So 710. Now, 710, I've heard some people say it's associated with a specific day of the year, so that becomes a smoking holiday, which is why people smoke like they call 420 a smoking holiday. April 20th is Hitler's birthday. It's not a smoking holiday. It's like I don't understand why that's a weed thing. Just like July 10th really doesn't have anything special to do with marijuana either. So it's the 710 thing is more just them capitalizing off the 420. The 420 was students using code in Southern California.
All right. So you went from Florida, I guess after high school, after college, and you went to the Mecca of marijuana. You went to Colorado.
And then I started up with the second dispensary in the entire country to ever open, actually, which is a Ballpark Holistic Dispensary. In a matter of 3 months, I worked my way up from checking IDs at the door to being the operations manager of their grow.
Wow. Well,
and the reason why is because I was the only one there who had any college experience, but I also had gone out to Oaksterdam University in the town of Oaksterdam, which is right by Oakland, close to San Francisco, but really more on the Oakland side. And it was America's first cannabis college. So I got myself certified actually to teach some of their classes. So history of cannabis or Cannabis 101, I actually am certified to teach that.
Well, Joseph Boyer, I mean, I've been around marijuana. My mom, she's been on the podcast. She all through the 60s. She's a child of the 60s. So anything that you can think of. I
feel like I like her.
Yeah, anything you could think of in the 60s, she's done it. And marijuana was big. In fact, I was 18 years old, just barely 18. She offered me my first hit. I like the smell of it.
Not my experience.
I like the smell of it, but I've never done it. I've never smoked. I've never smoked cigarettes. I mean, I have other vices. I'm a big fat guy, so obviously I like to eat. But, I do like that it's getting legalized. It's getting regulated. People are not going to be.
It's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah.
If there was one word that I would use for cannabis, it is misunderstood. And you notice that I won't call it marijuana because that's actually technically a racist term.
Gotcha. Yes. Okay.
Right? I don't know if your podcast wants to hear this, but you have 60 seconds for it?
I want to hear it.
Oh, perfect. Okay. This is essentially the history of the word marijuana. Spanish-American War was very, very bloody, and it was obviously mostly fought over land. So most of the people of Texas had and what is now California had a huge bias against Mexicans. There was a lot of racism against Mexicans at that time, and they were being carted out of the area or forced out of their homes. And there was also all of the issues with the guerrilla tactics of Pancho Villa. Now, Pancho Villa, being is either a freedom fighter or a terrorist, depending on your politics. Now, in the area, he would use sativas, specifically South American sativas, which have a completely different effect than North American indicas. South American sativas have an effect very similar to coffee. They're almost a stimulant effect, and it would allow people to stay alert for hours on end while they're waiting in their trees or wherever for their guerrilla tactics, so that when the enemy comes, you're ready. Mm-hmm. So they would use it for that reason. And they called it the Portuguese word for cannabis, which is mahanana. Now, racist Americans are like, well, they look Spanish, so they must be speaking Spanish, and it sounds like Mary Jane, so it's Mary Jane. And it stuck. And then when Harry S. Aslinger was like the previous alcohol czar. He was, back when during Prohibition, he was the head of Prohibition. When Prohibition ended, he had 35,000 agents that were going to lose work. So he needed a new enemy to demonize, and marijuana was perfect. It targeted black people. I say he could target black people, he could target Mexicans, he could target jazz clubs, he could target liberals, he could target workers' unions. He could target pretty much anyone that did not have their very myopic conservative views. And they spent the better part of 70 years demonizing it for that reason. Which is kind of amazing when you consider that the Declaration of Independence is printed on cannabis.
Ding, ding, ding. I think I just learned part of that on a series that's on Netflix called Explained. There's a really good chapter. They've got some good stuff on there. Yeah, and I learned about the sativa and the indica, and from what I'm understanding is the distributors are making marijuana so powerful that they can't find the soft buzz. The old timers are complaining because they can't.
That's not the issue.
Okay.
The issue is that if you have a limited amount of space and a limited amount of wattage, of your bulbs, that's what costs the money. The power to grow inside, because that produces a much higher quality product when you're growing inside, is going to be the biggest cost. It's 90% of your total costs. So you have to, since your energy costs are not going to go down, they're going to remain the same for the entire time you're growing your crop. You need to have crops that yield as much as possible. So the goal is to have something that is incredibly high yielding. High yielding plants tend to be very low in CBN, CBG, CBD, and all of these other cannabinoids that do not give the person the high. THC is actually the only cannabinoid that has the effect of making a person high. CBD, you could eat a gallon of it, and other than giving you a stomach ache, it'll never make you high. And in fact, none of them will. So when people think of the old school stony high they used to get back in the day, it is true that the strains are much more potent nowadays, but that's because they're being grown in America by professional botanists instead of being packed and wrapped in duct tape after being grown in Mexico by a guy. I mean, they called it weed because it was grown like weeds. Whereas anyone who's ever actually dealt with the plant knows that they're harder to grow than roses. They're closer to orchids in terms of how hard they are to grow, and it's such a expensive product. I mean, one plant, if you were to grow one sativa as big as it theoretically could outside, and sativas can get up to 25 feet tall, you could theoretically get 10 pounds off of one plant like that, which would be a rough market price of $15,000 to $40,000 off one plant. Wow. So there is a massive incentive in the cannabis industry, which is why it's like last year, $53 billion industry. And it's only going to go up. The big thing is once it goes federal and once they start using it for biofuels, it will go from billion to trillion.
Yeah. It sounds so lucrative, and you were in the management. You were at the top.
So why didn't I stick with it?
Why did you give it up? It sounds so lucrative.
Because I'm not a millionaire. In order to get a license, just to get a license is $1.3 million. And that doesn't even include the cost of a legal team to put it together. They set the system up, and this is in Colorado where it's the easiest. Colorado's the easiest place to open a dispensary, and it would only cost about $3.5 million.
Only.
Now, the chances of making your money back before going bankrupt is next to nothing. So in other words, almost every dispensary in Colorado is losing money, and what they're trying to do is essentially they're trying to become big and profitable enough, or at least have enough locations to get bought out by larger chains. So Buddy Boy, for example, is one company that had 7 stores, and Lighthouse and another store. And one company came in and bought out all 3 of these, and now they've got 23 stores. And that's basically what we're finding, is that some of these foreign companies and foreign investors are coming in and buying out our industry. So what started as kind of a really potentially lucrative homegrown American industry is being outsourced to foreigners. I don't understand it.
Just like everything else.
In Florida, there are only 10 licenses.
Yeah, I think there's 4 or 5 here in Arkansas. And
so
yeah.
How is that not a monopoly?
Exactly. No, I get what you mean. And so you got out. I mean, were you able to take you took the knowledge?
I got out, and I'm always going to have the knowledge, and I'm always going to be a fan of those products to an extent. I mean, certain ones, when you really get into it, you start understanding how many different strains there are. You really realize that they are quite different. Yeah. There are some cannabinoids that are little used, like CBG is going to be huge eventually. Right now, everyone talks about CBD. Yeah. CBD is good because it's cancer preventing. It's an antioxidant. It works with blood flow. It promotes homeostasis. It's very good for the body. It's almost a cure for epilepsy. However, CBG is going to be the one that's going to be the big one, and it's going to become kind of a performance-enhancing drug. Oh. You guys remember when Michael Phelps got in trouble for smoking weed?
Was he smoking that?
He wasn't smoking weed. He got in trouble because he took a CBG supplement. What CBG does is it oxygenates your blood better.
And how did he take that?
It's essentially the same thing as a cyclist who does blood doping.
Was it
where
a
they
pill?
take oxygenated blood and they put it back in their body.
I've
So he
heard
was just taking a CBG supplement,
a pill with CBG,
or a patch, or you can vape it, or you can smoke it if you had a flower with enough of it in there. You can eat it in a chocolate or a gummy. I mean, it's found in cannabis, so you can eat it or you can use it all the same ways that you would use normal cannabis.
Gotcha. Oh my goodness. See, I never knew where these things are going to go. You've given me so much knowledge, so much food for thought, and really, we've only scratched the surface of all that. Why did you leave
Actually, before I came on, I was asking Kat, what do you think we're going to talk about? What do you think? And she's like, oh, don't worry about it. He's got you.
Well, I mean, what made you leave all that? I know you said you're not a millionaire. What did you end up doing when you went back to Florida, I guess to be with the family, be closer to your siblings, your mom and dad?
Absolutely.
That's always good.
And a messy breakup as well. I mean, that's something I'm not going to get into, and I don't think anyone wants to hear about it. But we've all been there, right?
We've all been there.
So, yeah, a very messy breakup. And to say that one took me a while to get over is a bit of an understatement. If it wasn't for Katrina, I'm not even sure that, I mean, not only, you say we wouldn't be speaking. Well, of course we wouldn't be speaking. She introduced me to you. But I might not be speaking to anyone. I say that woman saved my life. I was in a dark place, and I'm very happy to have her for that reason, among others.
I think you hit a home run, sir.
Yeah, it is a home run. But Colorado, I love the state. I love everything about it. But it's also a 4-hour flight from family, or a 26-hour drive. It is random snowstorms coming in the middle of July.
Yeah, I remember
crazy stuff like that.
I think I went to Vail in July, and there was still a 12-foot or 20-foot snowbank. I went up to the top of Pikes Peak, and it was still, it was a lot of snow. I didn't like it.
Yeah, you were south of me. I was closer to Boulder.
Oh,
so I was right up against the Flatirons, and let me tell you, you want to see one foot of snow come down an hour for 14 consecutive hours?
I do
Move to Boulder, Colorado.
I do not.
I mean, the only thing I've seen worse than that is Buffalo, New York, which is like I swear, if that place didn't have a football team, I mean, you know, it's really all they've got.
Hey, they had OJ.
Yeah, they had him.
And then, in the 90s, I don't know what happened to OJ. I
Something happened.
I lost track of him. But yeah, the reason I bring that up, I was watching. I'm watching the old SNLs, Saturday Night Lives, and I think just yesterday or the day before, we watched the SNL where OJ was the host back in 77, 78. Ooh.
Was that back when the Aykroyd was doing the whole cheeseburger thing? I can't remember anymore.
Yes,
I think they have those somewhere.
We just saw that. It's on Peacock right now. But all right, man.
That show used to be a lot better. They've fallen off in recent years. They just have.
It's got its
I'm not
ups
one
and
of these
downs.
homers who's going to say that they were better with Adam Sandler. They weren't. They were better way back in the day.
It's got its ups and downs. And from what I remember as SNL back in the 70s, there were still hits and misses. It wasn't.
Yeah, I miss Phil Hartman.
Yeah,
That's my thing. I miss Phil Hartman.
Yeah, it wasn't all cone heads and bees and cheeseburger. There were still some sketches that maybe that wasn't so good.
Maybe not so much.
But all right. Let's get out of this thing. Let's drive it home, man. Tell the people what you're doing these days. You got out of the cannabis industry. I'm going to try not to call it marijuana anymore because of the little history you gave me. So cannabis out.
Cue from there.
What are you doing?
Okay, so here's what happened. So I came back to Florida, and it was I guess it was midway through 2019, and I started looking at the cannabis industry in this area, and I thought maybe I'd try and spread out and take on a managerial thing and see what it would look like here. Maybe a change of scenery is the issue. Maybe as much as I love Colorado, it's just the market's too saturated, something to that effect. So I get going with it, and I have a few interviews lined up, and I was ready to start with this company, and they were ready to bring me in January of 2020, and then something funny happened.
What?
I don't know. it's funny. Suddenly, everyone wasn't going outside, and they didn't have customers, so they didn't need me. Yeah. No,
Ouch.
but all joking aside, I thought to myself, okay, name a recession-proof industry. Name something that is always going to happen. Well, it ain't going to stop raining. The leaves aren't going to stop falling. The grass isn't going to stop needing to be cut. Dirt isn't going to stop accumulating, and mold's not going to stop growing. People are always going to need it. It's a recession-proof business. And, you know, as my grandfather says, all I have to do is put in 25 or 30 hard years of working every single day, and I can be an overnight success.
So what did you land on?
Oh, that's it, though. The pressure washing is the direction I'm going with it. I like the flexibility. I like being outside. I like the fact that almost any person who meets me is totally not expecting me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you figure almost anyone what are you going to be expecting? You're going to be expecting some guy with a high school diploma who's here with a pressure. I'll take care of your driveway for you. You know, not a guy who's going to be going on about different chemical compounds which are going to produce a desired result, while going on about the existential issues with the problems of. Never mind. I digress. The point is that people very, very seldom know what to do with me until they've got to know me for a while.
Well, we talked
You've done pretty well in that regard.
Yeah, we talked a little bit earlier about managing time. You'll never work harder than when you have your own business, because now you're thinking about your pressure washing business 24/7. Do you give yourself downtime?
Well, you have to. Other jobs I've had, I can put in like 24/7 work to it. It doesn't feel like work. This kind of work outside in Florida, where when it's 85 degrees, it feels like 105. And that humidity is melting you away, just destroying you every day. Yeah, you have to pace yourself or you get heat stroke. So, yeah, I find myself taking time off out of a natural necessity, not as much out of actual willful decision on my part. Now, if I were smarter, I would take some time off.
Well, you know, and you have to, and hopefully Katrina will help you in that respect and say, honey, we're taking the weekend off and we're going to go to Disney.
Now, there's the funny thing. I do have that work ethic, but you know, Katrina, that girl puts the rest of us to shame with her work ethic.
For sure.
I mean, I honestly, I think I once caught her texting while she was asleep. I actually legitimately think it, and I think it was coherent. But
Truth.
You know, what do you get?
Truth. I mean, she's a marketing guru. She's she's all over my social feed. Yeah. She's all over my feeds.
My business. I mean, I've hired her pretty much. I mean, I've actually legit. She's not just helping me. I've hired her to do everything.
Yeah.
Because the one thing I know about social media and marketing is that I know nothing. That's the only thing I know. I'm a little Socratic in that regard. I know nothing about it. And I think the smartest thing I can do is realize how dumb I am in it.
Yes, I learned about Socrates
let the experts do what they do.
I learned about Socrates from Bill and Ted, actually, myself. So, yes.
Socrates.
Yeah. I know that I know nothing. And I've lived by that philosophy for the longest time. And I'm glad that I've gotten the chance to talk to you, Joseph Boyer. Man,
I appreciate it.
And you're doing a service. You're getting to work outside, which is great. I love the jobs that let me work outside. I did some lawn work on Sunday. Usually I like to keep those days Sunday. But let me tell you, I cleared my lawn yesterday to start all over again.
It feels good, doesn't it?
It does feel good, man.
It's instant gratification. That's why I like it.
And the pressure washing.
The immediate feeling.
The pressure washing, the cleaning, you have a dirty surface and shoot, a couple of passes with the pressure washer. Man, it feels good. It's pristine.
That's honestly one of the main things I do get out of it. And also, when a person has been looking at their property again and again and again, and they take pride in it, but they don't have time to fix it, and it's like hurting them. You know, it hurts them. It genuinely hurts them in their soul.
Yeah.
And when you can give them that pride back, I gotta say that does feel good.
Oh, and I'm not going to tell you that I did it all myself. I had my brother-in-law come with his tractor.
It does get to be a big job. Yeah.
Exactly. You cannot do it all by yourself. You need a Joseph Boyer to help you out in this respect.
Thank you.
You definitely do. And it has to be a team. Joseph Boyer needs a Katrina Tejedor to help him out. So it's a team effort. We all have to be helping each other. And now you got a Keys Dan that's going to try to help push your business along as well. Promoting is what I do.
Now I got my home run hitter.
Well, that's Katrina for sure.
I flatter. It's what I do.
All right. You've already given the shout outs to the people that have helped you along the way. Let people know how to get a hold of your business and what kind of services you are able to do. And then we'll do the last words for the people and get on out of here.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for that, Dan. All right. My business is Immaculate Cleaning of Central Florida. We're full service exterior cleaning. We do all kinds of pressure washing and power washing, which is the heated washing. We do soft washes of any external surface. We do gutters. We do roofs. We do pool and eyes. If it's outside, we do it. We'll do boats. We'll do cars. We'll do your children, but we are not responsible for any damages.
Mommy!
Yeah, but you can check out our website. Katrina did a wonderful job on our website. It's www.immaculatecfl.com, and you can also check us out on Facebook at Immaculate Cleaning as well. I'm sure she's going to be angry at me later, as I'm sure I've forgotten a bunch of them. That's why I need her, because I can't even remember all the things I've got now. And our YouTube channel. Yes, we also have some small videos on YouTube. We're trying to put out more content as we go forward, just as for helpful hints for people to try and do it on their own. And for those who don't want to do it on their own, you can always contact us.
Well, that's what the kids want. They want that good content, especially video. They want to see it out there. Oh, I know.
It's gratifying stuff.
Yeah. And you're talking about school. You could learn everything on YouTube now. And Google is 30 seconds. Oh, I don't know that thing. Google, now I know that thing, So.
I 100% agree. There's nothing more infuriating than being in the presence of someone who just, why do I have to stand back in awe of their inability to Google? Why does the idea that one day on Wikipedia will enlighten them, frighten them so much? I don't understand it.
Well, I'll be looking for your Wikipedia page, Joseph Boyer. All this information.
Oh yes, and that's full circle. I like it.
All this information should be out there on your Wikipedia, so just laid out for everyone to get a hold of. Man,
if I have a Wikipedia page, I'm going to be going in and putting in false information all the time.
I did. I made my own Wikipedia page, and I put out all my info, and of course it got destroyed. This is when Wikipedia was brand new, I guess, early 2000s, and I put out a Keys Dan, and he's a DJ in Miami, and it was taken down. I don't know why. I guess I'm not famous enough. Whatever. All right.
That's just people beating their own drum. Everyone's got theirs. You're plenty famous enough, but we could all always be a little more famous, right?
All right, Joseph Boyer.
That's going to be the goal.
We've chitty-chatted for a while. People have an idea of who you are, front to back. It's just to scratch the surface, really, of who you are. My goodness, I know you have a fountain of information, and I want people to contact you, and I want to follow you around from time to time and find out more about what's going on with you. But I always like to finish these things off with last words for the people. And Joseph Boyer, I want you to give last words for the people. It could be something, maybe words to live by, something you heard a long time ago, maybe a mantra that you wake up with in the morning, or just whatever pops into your head at this moment in time. Joseph Boyer, last words for the people.
If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything in it. And which is more, you'll be a man, my son.
Well, there you have it, party people. Joseph Boyer. Check him out. Man, the guy is cool. He's a cool dude. He's got his pressure washing business, but he is so much more. You can tell he's been around the block quite a few times, man. I encourage you to find Joseph Boyer online or otherwise. I mean, definitely just look him up. and you'll find out more. But my goodness, I had such a good time chit-chatting with him. See, I didn't know I was going to learn so much about cannabis, like the fact that I should be calling it cannabis, and learn that he's got, not only is he a well-educated person, he comes from a long line of educated people. Well, at least his dad and his brother, and then his other brother and his sister, and they're all doing well. So he's got a good family, and that's a nice, strong hold to have in your life, is your family. It's good. No one is going to back you up more than your family for the most part. I know there's exceptions to the rules. A lot of people say, my family was never any good to me, and some people genuinely have that. But for the most part, your family is the one that's going to back you up through thick and through thin. So always try to keep tight with your family. Man, I got to call my mom and my brother and my grandma. Yeah, my grandma's still hanging on, still kicking, still working it. Yes, I love you, mommy, and I love you, mama, and I love you, bro. Yeah, it's good. It's good to have family, and stay tight. Stay tight with your family. Thank you so much, Joseph Boyer, for being on the program, the What Makes You Famous podcast. I appreciate you so much, man. See, you just don't know what you're going to learn. And you're a cool dude. You've got some knowledge in your pocket. And, man, that's just it. Once you get into something, you go full force. You started out as the doorman at the cannabis shop, and then you became, high up on the chain. And then you started, I don't know exactly how you started with the pressure washing, but now you have knowledge about what kind of chemicals to use. It's not just putting the wet stuff on the problem area. It's what kind of wet stuff, what kind of additives should you be using. And you know those things, man. You've studied those things. You learn those things. It's cool, man. It's good to know you, Joseph Boyer. All right, party people. Now, if I'm turning my attention to you, would like to tell your story, I encourage you to give me a call, 501-470-6386, or email info@radiowhat.com. That's it for me. It's Keys Dan, radiowhat.com, djlittlerock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.